The topic that we are taking up today is figures of speech. I'm sure most of you may have heard of this topic. Now, this is technically not a topic that we will be terming as a grammar topic as such, because this topic is generally found in English literature, specifically in poems. Okay, these are different ways of writing sentences in poems. Alright, so let's see what these figures of speech are. Now, certain sentences are written in a certain pattern when it comes to poems, and the poet has the liberty to make some sentences sound different, frame some sentences differently, give a specific comparison in some sentences, refer to the people who are not present currently. So there are different ways that a person who is a poet is able to write a poem. Okay, so we are studying the figures of speech, the different ways in which sentences can be turned in poems. All right, so let's begin with figure of speech number one, that's called simile. Now see how we'll go about doing this. We'll be taking one topic, one figure of speech, and I'll be explaining that figure of speech. We'll be writing a short explanation over here, and we'll be writing an example over here. Alright, so when you are doing this topic, you do it where the short explanation is written by you in an elaborate manner. Okay, and the same example should be copied by you. Okay, so when you are reading it on the last day of exam, this will serve as a perfect revision material. Alright, so let's go for figures of speech part 1. We'll be doing a lot many other figures of speech also. In this particular episode of figures of speech, we are doing only these 8 ones. Alright, so let's begin with simile. Now in this figure of speech, that is simile, it is called simile. Okay, in spite of the E. So in simile, there will always be a comparison between two. There will always be a comparison between two. Now when there is a comparison between two, there will be certain words that will be used. So I will write, when there is a comparison using like or as or so or than, it is called simile. Whenever there is a comparison between two things, two people, two places, two objects, and the words like, as, so or than, any of these words are used, then this figure of speech would be called simile. For example, he was as fast as a horse. Now, in this sentence, when I say he was as fast as a horse, there is a comparison between he and horse using the word as. Using the word as. So whenever there is a comparison between two things, two people, two objects, two places, two parts of a sentence, two animals, anything, whenever there is a comparison between two, using the words like, as, so or than, it is simile. Alright? Moving ahead. So see, when you are writing it in your notebooks, what you will write? Simile. The figure of speech is simile when there is a comparison using the words like, as, so or than. Alright? So it is a detailed explanation, will be easier on the day of exam. And on the next line perhaps you can write the example, he was as fast as a horse. Alright? Moving ahead to metaphor. Now in metaphor, there is a similar quality. There will again be a comparison between two. In metaphor also, there will be a comparison between two people, two objects, two places. All these things, the comparisons remain the same, but they are without using the words like, as, so and than. The words like, as, so and than are not used in metaphor. Okay, so I will write comparison without using like, as, so, than. So when there is a comparison without using, the WO is without using like, as, so, than, it is metaphor. Let's see the example for this. he was a lion in the fight. He was a lion in the fight, meaning, was he actually a lion? Is it possible that he became a lion and then again became a human being? No. He is compared with a lion without using like, as, so, than. Because there is no like, as, so, than, and there is a comparison between him and lion. This is a metaphor. So see, what is the primary difference between these? Both are comparisons. This is using like, as, so. This is without using like, as, so, than. Alright. I hope this example and these two figures of speech are clear to all of you. They're very simple. It is just that you need to remember each one's quality. Simile, comparison using like, as, so. Metaphor, comparison without using like, as, so. Moving ahead to the next one, it is personification. In personification, what do we have? We have when a non-living thing is given a human quality. Whenever a non-living thing is given a human quality, it is called personification. Say for example, if I say it was dark and the clouds started crying. When I say it was dark and the clouds started crying. Clouds, a non-living thing, given a human quality of crying. So it is personification. Okay? It was dark and the clouds started crying. Clouds, a non-living thing, is given a human quality of crying. Are you understanding? I hope this is very clear to all of you. So whenever there is a non-living thing given a human quality, you will call it a personification. Like for example, death lay its icy hands on me. Death lay its icy hands on me. It means I have been killed by someone or I am dead. But it is said that death has icy hands and those hands are laid on me. Okay? So this is personification. A non-living thing is given a human quality. Moving ahead, this figure of speech, it is pronounced as hyperbole. It is pronounced like this. If you know how to write Hindi or read Hindi, hyperbole. It is not hyperbole or it is not hyperbole. It is hyperbole. It is an overstatement. Overstatement means there is something mentioned which is not possible. It is an over-exaggeration. It is an overstatement. It is something unbelievable still mentioned. Like for example, the poet was so sad that he cried and filled a bucket full of tears. All of us know it is not practically possible to fill a bucket full of tears, right? So it is an overstatement. Something that is not possible is mentioned. For example, he saw 10 moons at the same time. Or 10,000 daffodils I saw together. Or jumping from cloud to cloud went the horse. So this is something that is not possible, still mentioned to bring an extra effect to the poem, to bring an exaggeration. So it takes the readers to a memory lane. Okay, it is an imaginative world that they go to using hyperbole. Alright, so it is an overstatement. We'll take a simple example, the one that we just discussed. He cried and filled a bucket full of tears. So something that is not possible is mentioned in this. So the figure of speech is called hyperbole. Alright. Moving ahead is transferred epithet. Now see, be a little extra careful in this. This is not as simple as the ones that we have done so far. Understand this? Not difficult but different. So you need to pay a little extra attention in this. Epithet means adjective. What is the meaning of epithet? The meaning of epithet is adjective. Transferred epithet. In transferred epithet, the adjective is transferred from one word to another. Epithet means adjective. So in this one, an adjective is transferred from one word to another. Actually, the adjective is meant for word number 1. It is written beside word number 2. I'll tell you. This you will understand with the help of an example. Ram had a sleepless night. The sentence is Ram had a sleepless night. Okay. Now, in this sentence, if you see what is written, sleepless night. Was the night sleepless? No. Ram was sleepless. So the adjective sleepless is transferred from Ram to night. Are you getting it? The adjective sleepless is transferred from Ram to night. Okay, so that is what this is. An adjective is transferred from one word to another. Let's take one more example for this. I have a busy day tomorrow. I have a busy day tomorrow. What is written? Busy day. Is the day going to be busy? No, I am going to be busy. So the adjective busy is transferred from I to day. Hence, the sentence is called transferred epithet. I hope all of you have understood this. A very simple one, an adjective is transferred from one to the other word. The next one is inversion. Now see, whenever we read sentences in chapters, in essays, in letters, in magazines, in novels, whenever we have these chapters reading, when we read chapters or essays or prose, basically, they have to be following a particular sentence framing. Okay, they cannot have some other word in place of some other word, or the sequence of the sentence cannot be changed, or the sentence has to be a complete grammatically correct sentence. Now in poems, there is a liberty that these poets take where the sentence formation is inverted. The order of the sentence is inverted. Because it is inverted, the figure of speech is called inversion. Alright, see. Inversion. The sentence is not in the correct prose order. The sentence is not in the correct prose order. So if you see grammatically, it may not sound like a perfect sentence. Okay. For example, down the hill he fell. Now, if this is the sentence given to you, down the hill he fell, it is not making any sense. The actual sentence should be, he fell down the hill. Right? The perfect grammatical sentence for this should be, he fell down the hill. Instead, what is written? Down the hill he fell. So, the sequence of the sentence is inverted. Hence, it is called inversion. I hope all of you have understood this. The sentence is not in the correct prose order. The prose order is inverted. For example, Ralph was his name. The actual sentence, the sentence given to you is Ralph was his name. Now, if I write down Ralph was his name, it does not sound correct. Grammatically, it is not a correct sentence. A grammatically correct sentence would be his name was Ralph. Okay. So instead of saying his name was Ralph, I am writing Ralph was his name. So the sequence of the sentence is inverted. Hence, it is called an inversion. Alright? I hope all of you have understood this. See, these are very simple ones. These are not difficult to understand. It is just that you have to remember these properly. Because you have to remember the meaning of each of these. Alright? Moving ahead, the seventh one, it's called antithesis. An antithesis, we have two words having opposite meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. Two words having opposite meanings. Now, by opposite, it does not mean any kind of opposite. It has to be the dictionary opposite. Like if I say few, then many, in, out, day, night, few, many, as I told you, slow, fast. So these are exact opposites. Okay. So when you have two words having opposite meanings mentioned in the same sentence, it is antithesis. For example, he called many, but few came. He called many, but few came. Many and few having opposite meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. So this is an antithesis. In antithesis, we will be having two words having opposite meanings mentioned in the same sentence. Okay. For example, he studied day and night, or he has been both rich and poor in his life. Okay, something where you have the exact dictionary opposites of these. Alright. Moving ahead is tautology. Now in tautology, we have the opposite of antithesis. Tautology is the opposite of antithesis. In antithesis, we have two words having opposite meanings mentioned in the same sentence. In tautology, we have two words having similar meanings mentioned in the same sentence. Two words having similar meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. See, they are not the exact same dictionary meanings. Okay, these are similar. Words that are somewhat similar in meaning and used together are a part of tautology. You'll understand it better with the help of this example. If I say he's a smart, intelligent boy. Now, smart and intelligent, they are not the exact same meanings, but they are somewhat similar in meaning. Okay, smart and intelligent are similar in their meanings. So this is the figure of speech tautology. Why? Two words having similar meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. Let's quickly revise all the figures of speech that we have done. The first one is simile. In simile, there is a comparison between two things, people, objects, places, animals. Comparison between two using the words like, as, so and than. Metaphor, in this we have a comparison without using like, as, so and than. Personification. A non-living thing is given a human quality. In personification, a non-living thing is given a human quality. Remember this? It was again the cloud started crying, or death lays his icy hands on me, something like that. So that was personification. Hyperbole. In hyperbole, the sentence is over exaggerated. It is an overstatement. Something that is not possible is mentioned. He cried and filled a bucket full of tears. Next is transferred epithet. Epithet means adjective. In transferred epithet, we have an adjective transferred from one word to another. In transferred epithet, we will be having an adjective which is transferred from one word to another. For example, he had a sleepless night, or I had a busy day. Alright. The next one is inversion. In inversion, the sentence is not in a proper prose order. Okay, it is not in the correct prose order. The order may be inverted. It may not be like a proper prose sentence. Like down the hill he fell. The actual order should be he fell down the hill. So this is the difference. Okay. Next is antithesis. Two words having opposite meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. And following that is tautology. Two words having similar meanings are mentioned in the same sentence. So this is part 1 of figures of speech. These are the most common ones. In part 2, we'll be doing some more, maybe another 8 figures of speech. So these are the 16 common ones. In all, there are more than 30. We need not study them all. We'll be doing these 16 common ones, and most of it should be covering all kinds of sentences. Alright? So until next time, this is Ronak Shah signing off, and I'll see you in the next lecture. We'll continue figures of speech part 2. Thank you and take care.